and they were like, "So what are you here for?" And he's like, "A boob job." And they're like, "What?" He was teasing.
Oh my god.
Oh, sweet. I love this software, except my face is off.
And the colonoscopy thing was really funny too. When, they were talking to him and he was under, he's like, I normally don't do this on a first date.
Okay, serious question. Can you guys see that my face looks like fucking shit?
I can't see you at all. Where are
Yeah, I
you?
can't see you at all. I just see the
The
initials pop up in
BH.
the circle, the BH, yeah.
Let's get the wrinkles out of my t-shirt. There we go.
Okay, why am I showing live then?
Because it's lying to you.
Okay. So nothing's showing for me? You can hear me though.
Yeah, we
Yes.
can hear you fine.
Well, that's really bizarre. Okay, let me try this. Okay.
Well, let me try to tip my camera up and see if I can raise my chair and
Oh,
see
you're
what
fine.
that
You're
does.
fine now. You were
There,
fine.
you see the top of my head.
Yes.
Hey.
You were fine before.
I hate being short sometimes. Maybe lower this a little bit.
How did I do this the last time? I hate that they change things. Video. No, browser series. Oh, this way. Oops, that's not what I want. Text. Can you see me now?
Nope.
Well, that's bizarre. Because I'm showing up on my screen. Well, people will just not have to look at me then. My face is all busted out anyway, so. I don't know why it's not showing up. That's really bizarre.
I don't know how that goes.
It's always something different on this fucking trying to figure this all out, so.
Yeah.
Okay, if I mute this, can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Can you still hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. You guys talk for a minute. Make sure I can still hear you.
All right.
Okay, what would you like us to
Gotcha.
talk about? What a dipshit Trump is? We can do that.
Oh, God. I purposely picked out stories that did not really talk about him.
Okay.
It's like, oh my God.
Although it is very funny that he got booed at the
Yes.
World
Did you
Series.
hear that
right?
Fox News edited the video?
Yeah, to block it out or whatever. And a lot of people have made this
Mhm.
point. They're like, why did he bring like Matt Gates and some other and Steve Scalise to the baseball game with him instead of Barron? Like, I never see
Yeah.
him do anything with Barron, and
He
then
hates Baron because Baron's not 18. He hates kids.
yeah, and
Or
then
no,
No, he hates
Don
Barron
Jr. was
because it's
like,
Melania's kid.
yeah,
he never had anything to do with them until they were 18 because he just hates children.
yeah. And then Don Jr. And made a comment was like, actually, this is
Oh my god, he's like waving to the. Yeah. Okay. Alright. Okay, let me close this out to make sure. Jillian's been. I have never seen a woman, anybody post more than I do. Okay. And that's saying something, although I have kind of slowed down. But this woman puts out anywhere from consistently 3 to 5 hours of live video via Facebook. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and you don't spend an inordinate amount of time on Twitter, but I mean, I know you're on there a lot, but it's not like, well, then again, Facebook's one of my primary news feeds, but okay, let me close this. Oh shit, I'm under my. Hold on. I'm under. And you at least post something worthwhile. Okay. Now, I'm trying to find the damn buttons. Okay. Did we go live? No, we didn't go live. We shouldn't have gone live. Where's my button? I hate when they update shit because then I can't find anything. I hate this overlay of. Uh, I hate. Can't. Well, I hate any holiday, but Halloween for some reason really kind of just it's weird. We're talking Rush, darling. That was my album. Yes, it was. Yeah. It's like the prog rock. Uh, I hope I read Sam's message right that she said she wouldn't be available, right? Okay. Well, no, she had to go to the airport to go. I guess her ride fell through. But I just wanted to make sure I read that right because I didn't put her on the call. Yeah, she. Yeah, you can't see the. It's just, well, for me, it's one big blur, but my eyes aren't that good anyway. Oh, it does show up. Awesome. I hope none of this audio is going out. Uh, I don't see anything. Do you see any? Do you have the? Okay. I'm just hoping our audio isn't going out. No, it's still showing. Nothing's showing. Oh, awesome. See, I used to be like that with Van Halen. See, I haven't pressed anything on the YouTube side. Okay, just forewarning, everything we've said probably has gone out live then. Uh, sorry, guys, if you're listening to our banter before the show. Yeah. Now you guys get yeah, a little glimpse into what we deal with before the show as Beth tries to figure out the software still. This is why we haven't had any guests lately until I get this shit figured out. But that's weird. Why is it not saying I'm... Okay. So you guys want to go live then? Okay, if you guys will mute, I'll attempt to play our intro. We're gonna go a little early, folks, since y'all have been listening anyways. Let me get this right. Okay. Here we go. Hopefully this plays. Let me know if it doesn't so I can make any corrections for the next show. And here we go. Okay, so I think we were broadcasting our pre-show talk, so welcome to episode 203 officially. And tonight we're just going to talk the news because things kind of got a little squirrely on my end. But before we get into that, I have some kind of sort of sad news. And if you remember, friend of the show and friend of mine and friend of the show, and he's been a guest twice on our show. I'm talking of Bill Ludlow. Regretfully, he passed away this past week, last Sunday, if I remember correctly. And unbeknownst to pretty much all of us, except for his family, I'm assuming, Bill was diagnosed with stomach cancer that metastasized to his liver. And he lost his battle after only a month or so from diagnosis.
Yeah, about 6 weeks.
Yeah, so it's for me it's been kind of a shock, even though I wasn't super duper close to Bill as I was to Deb, obviously. Too fucking soon for me. So it kind of threw me for a loop. Um, but his website is still up, creationscience.com or creationsciencefiction.com. If you get a chance, visit it. He was a wonderful resource, especially concerning to human origins as well in paleontology. And I was lucky enough to basically watch his development as a YouTube creator from day one. And I fell in love with him as far as, he brought things down to earth for everybody. And he made it simple for a layperson to understand. But he was also a great research source concerning two topics that we shared in common, which was Mary Schweitzer, who did the soft dino tissue research, and of course Mark Armitage, who is the Luna out of CSUN in California. So he and I were in quite a few creationist websites. So I appreciated all his input. He sent me resources that I probably wouldn't have been able to get my hands on to when I did my Mark Armitage blog post, and I think we did a show on him as well as on Mary Schweitzer. I know when Bill was on, we talked about both. So he also introduced me to quite a few other resources that I still keep in contact with through various means, primarily Facebook. But sadly, we lost a really, in my opinion, really big advocate. Um, and his shoes are going to be very hard to fill. So it's going to take all of us YouTube creators, all of us bloggers, all those of us that care about what's being taught in our schools to fill his shoes, because he really had a passion for it, especially the education part through the Arizona museum that he worked for or volunteered for. He didn't actually work there. So, from all of us at the Beyond a Trailer Park to his family and his close friends and people I don't know personally, my condolences, all of our condolences. I'm pretty sure I can speak for Bridget and Morgan
Mm-hmm.
there, but
Yeah.
he will be missed. So, um, as of now, the only quote tribute that I know of for sure was done by Godless Engineer. He had quite a few people on, talking about Bill's impact. And if you go to Godless Engineer's YouTube channel, you can find that video. So I highly recommend, it's sad, but, knowing what my mom went through the last couple of weeks of her life, stomach cancer is not something to play around with. Well, no
Mm-mm.
cancer is, so. But our initial plan for, our last show, which would have been this show, was Jesus a socialist? I should have realized when I came up with that harebrained idea that trying to condense a paper that I wrote back in college, so you're talking 30 years, which was 57 pages of text, and between bibliography and notes was another 17 pages. Yeah, trying to condense it into 2 hours was going to be virtually impossible. And as I was telling the girls before the show, my obsession with Jillian has kind of pushed everything aside because, she's gone off the rails again. So,
Shock.
yeah, I was telling both Morgan and Bridget before we even started. Um, I've never seen a person post more than I do. And I know I can at times post quite a bit, but she will spend 3 to 5 hours a day, okay, just doing Facebook Lives. Basically talking to her computer. I don't even talk to my cat that much. Who, by the way, speaking of cat, oh, my camera's not coming through, so this is pointless. He's sitting right next to me. I got this new, well, it's my old microwave cart, but new to me. And he's claimed it as his own, so now he can sit next to mommy while she's on the computer. Can't you, fat bastard?
Yeah, he's like a cow,
Yeah, he's 25 pounds now, so
which
well,
is pretty freaking big for a
yeah,
cat.
and he's not fat. He's just a big cat. he's almost at my limit of what I can safely lift. When I try to pick him up,
Mm.
it's like, mommy can't do this, right? So, anywho, so how are you, Bridget?
I am well. Thanks for asking. Uh, Shujin and the rest of us figured out on Holy Crap that we've been at this for, gosh, almost 5 years, and that's a scary thought.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how long Beyond the Trailer Park has been going on,
5 years. We're about
wow,
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're about neck and neck with Shu. So
Mhm.
that is just amazing.
okay,
Where does the time go? I mean, really.
let's see. Matt Gilmore, you said what happened? What happened? That's how my cat is. She's not fat, just big kitty. Yep.
Just big boned.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I have one of
He's
those.
just a really big cat, and I've always had primarily females. Have had two males, and Figment was a Maine Coon or part Maine Coon, and they're big cats to begin with. But he was not super heavy. He was like more fur than he was anything else. And
Yeah.
then Aries really wasn't that big of a cat. But they're the only, of all the cats I've owned, he's not like any of my other cats. He's not a cuddly kitty, although he's been this week. He's wanting me to do his little trick when he was a baby of crawling up into my arms while I'm working on the computer. Well, when he was a kitten, I could type at the same time. I can't do that now because it takes both hands. So, and Miss Morgan, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Making it.
Making it? Are
Yeah.
things settling down for you? I know you were going through a hairy.
Yeah, I'm just working all the time now. That's basically all I do now, but yeah, and I think I'm coming down with something. It hasn't decided yet, so
Oh, I hate that stage.
yeah, I'm like, can it just be done and over with? But yeah,
Nope.
I don't know if it's something else or there's also this viral thing going around. So yeah, if I sound tired or anything, it's I'm not like yeah, it's just probably I'm just exactly that. I'm tired.
Well, the flu
Yeah.
is going around, so is strep throat. Just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's my biggest worry, especially with strep or any upper respiratory,
Yeah.
because even though for the most part physically I'm better than what I was, uh, um, in answer to Matt's question, not to side road, my mom died about 6 years ago now. She was 93 and a half, so mom lived a long life. um, yeah, we were talking about Bill Ludlow. Regretfully, he passed this past Sunday, and from my understanding, he was initially diagnosed with stomach cancer that metastasized to his liver. And I just know, as much as it hurts to lose him, I know what mom went through when she had stomach cancer, and the last week of her life was just not very
It's
good. So
painful.
very
Very
painful,
painful.
very painful. So a blessing in some ways, to borrow that phrase, but it's still a loss to the community as a whole. So so it's good to know that the audio is going through, and I'm actually getting the chat on my little program here. So this is kind of cool. I'm liking this.
Yay.
Yeah, I'm slowly getting the hang of this software, but it probably would help if we did more shows than we do. But it's I'm discovering Lifus Interruptus is really sucks when you're trying to do a podcast,
Yeah.
and then I come up with some screwy ideas for topics, and I think, oh yeah, I could do this in 2 weeks, and it's like, oh shit. That's what happened with the last show. I just couldn't get it to where I wanted it, and I knew Morgan, she's got her life and her job, and Sam's got her life and her job, and, Bridget's got her life and her job. I kind of have the ideal job where basically I only work, well, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Well, I have to change that because I'm back to 10 hours on Wednesday and Thursday now, but that's okay. But I have a good schedule as far as to be able to do what I do with the research and everything. Whereas someone with a 9 to 5 job probably wouldn't, because last thing they want to do when they get home from work is, like research shit. Um, yeah, Bill was a volunteer at the Natural Museum of History in Arizona. He was real big into human origins and paleontology, creationscience.com. If you get a chance, check it out, Matt. He had some great information, and from what I understand, he sent his entire library, not to sidetrack our conversation again, to Anra.
I
And
saw that.
if you're familiar with Arn, he does a lot with evolution as well.
Hmm.
And so this will be interesting to see what Arn's able to do with it. I'm not saying that Arn needs help. I mean, he's a smart cookie as it is, but
Yeah, but
yeah,
he was working on
those
the
two,
phylogeny project, and
yeah,
that is a huge thing.
yeah, well, yeah. It's like,
Huge undertaking.
yeah, and
Hmm.
it's a pretty. I've listened to bits and pieces of it. It's kind of hard for me because it's I listen to so much jelly juice shit that when I listen to real science, my my brain goes to mush. But yeah, so
Yeah.
tonight we're just gonna talk some stuff that's in the news. I purposely avoided Trump, although I will say his reception at the World Series game uh, against the uh, Astros and, oh shit, Nationals. Um,
Yeah.
was quite interesting, and we were talking before we technically went live, real live. Whoops. Um, he was booed quite uh, soundly, and from yeah, don't drink the juice. Yeah, never. Um,
Lots of chance of lock him up.
yeah, lock him up. But Fox News actually edited the clip that they showed concerning it. They took out um the booing and all that stuff. And it's like, and people think they're fucking news. You show the good and the bad.
Yeah, what's also funny is apparently the deputy press secretary is a fellow alumni of mine. Um,
Oh,
yeah, we're not sending our best. Um, so yeah, so he was saying, oh well, there were also people cheering, and I was just like, that's the best you got. And then he also said stuff about how, oh well, DC is a liberal city, and I'm just sitting there thinking, I'm like, okay, it wasn't like all Antifa members who had tickets to the World Series. Like, what is like those are very expensive tickets too. So there
yeah,
would have
they're
been
not
like,
cheap.
yeah, it's not like there was a bunch of like socialist like rabble. You know, it's like, yeah, there probably was a bit of leftists and liberals there, but I mean, obviously, but still, like the way they were speaking, they were like, I mean, I'm surprised they didn't say George Soros bought the whole stadium tickets.
Uh, so is our sound coming through okay, Matt? Because I'm only showing. well,
Great.
I'm assuming it is because nobody said anything. So, or well, I don't know who all is viewing, so I don't think I can tell. Oh no, we have 4 viewers. Awesome, and welcome everybody. So yeah, I just thought that was thanks Angela. Angela. Okay. Yeah, I know y'all can't see me. For some reason, my video didn't come through, and which I'm fine with because my face looks like fucking shit right now. So I'd rather it not be on camera. I have this neuropathy where I get the itchies as I call it. Yeah, that's a real technical term. But I feel like I have millions of bugs crawling over me and then I'll scratch, but I scratch till I bleed. And even though I have no nails because I cut all my nails, except my thumbnails because I need those for work. So, yeah, I have been digging at my face again. So it's like, yeah, no, I don't want to go on camera. So I'm kind of glad my camera's not working right. So, yeah. Yeah, it can be ouchy, especially when it wakes you up.
Yeah.
But at least it's not as bad as it was. My arms were horrible during the summer because of the heat. And so part of it was that. Part of it was my itchies, as I call it. But it's part of the neuropathy from my stroke. But I have had, as far as the neuropathy goes, I've had a lot of improvement, even though. Okay, now Angela's saying my camera is working fine. Okay, well. Oh, well. I'll get. Oh, yeah, okay. Well, that's good then. So
Yeah.
hopefully you can't see my face too. It, yeah. I was gonna wear like a little bandana over my mouth just so you, because I don't know how much it's gonna show on camera. It's just, it's not a fun thing to look at sometimes. It's just, yeah, somebody's been picking at her face. But, okay, back to the news.
Well,
I'm all
yeah.
scatterbrained because I've been working, I'll get it. I've been working on Jilly Juice stuff for the last 2.5 weeks. She's been putting out some really asinine shit that, um, from what we can tell, I'm 99.9% sure she's reading my blog, which is what I want. She won't answer her critics, so I don't really care if she does or doesn't, because I'm really not writing specifically to her. I'm writing to her minions, because I do know some of her minions do read my blog as well, to try to get them to think, if that's possible. So it's been taking up a lot of time because an hour of video for her takes anywhere from 3, depending on the topic, 3 to 7 hours to write a blog post to rebut it. It's not even the 10-to-1 ratio, as I call it, because her shit's so fucking stupid that it's like, did I just hear her say that right? And you have to replay it to, then you got to try to translate what she says, and she has her own vocabulary. Like, she thinks an antibiotic is equals anti-life. Okay, and it's like, no, that's not quite the way it is. Or cancer is a communicable disease.
Oh
that
my
it's a
god.
virus. She also thinks it's candida. So you have to figure out her fucking vocabulary. But then she's like, well, in my context, it's like,
Yeah,
dude,
you don't just get to make your own context for what antibiotics do.
well, and that's the thing, and that's her defense. In fact, she actually wrote this in her response to the Ohio Attorney General back when that was a thing about God, 2 years ago now. Um, in
And
her con
candida is a yeast. I mean, come
Yeah,
on.
yeah. And the thing is, the idea is not even original. That idea of candida being cancer actually came out in the 80s. But it's like in her context, and it's like, science doesn't have a context. It's either right or it's wrong. But she doesn't accept that because she's like, oh, I use academia to support my views and yada yada yada. It's like, no, you cherry pick studies that you don't fucking read if you read past the headline. And sometimes she can't even read that because she put this article. It was about the what was it? Something in Maryland Bay with the crabs, and it specifically said in the title of the article that it was a bacteria. She's like, well, viruses.
No.
No, that's not how it works. They're not the same
Are we
thing.
sure that she hasn't mixed up academia with macadamia?
Her
No,
delicious nut.
no,
Delicious nut.
she. I'm not gonna touch that one because I'm not gonna say what's going through my mind because we'll probably get thrown off of YouTube if I
Well, they
did.
kind of sound the same.
Yeah, no, she what she does is she'll take like paper. If she reads the abstract, which I know, I don't think anything that I've rebutted, she has read past the abstract. I know one article she quotes this one abstract, and it's like, well, I know you didn't fucking read the paper. It's in fucking Chinese.
And behind a paywall.
Well, actually, it's not.
Well,
Well,
I'm
at
just
least not
saying.
for me, anyways. But yeah, a lot of the articles she'll cite, she only cites the abstract. Well, okay, the abstract doesn't tell you the whole story. So, and yes, a lot of them are behind a paywall. I have some ways I can go around the paywall legally. There's other ways you can get a hold of these papers if it's really that pertinent that you do. You just
She
write the
probably
author.
doesn't bother to. That's
Oh
what I'm
no, there's
saying.
no way she's paying $39 for a paper that she's gonna steal
Uh,
one, and she'll take whatever piece of that puzzle from the abstract fits her notion. So she'll take there was a paper done a couple years ago on cosmonauts with using 12,000 milligrams of salt, which is 4 times
oh,
normal. But they were doing it, one scientifically, too, for a purpose. Uh, Also, because of the lack of gravity in space, there were some considerations there. It was actually a legitimate paper. But she took that as substantiation for 47,344 milligrams of sodium that's in her crap. No, it was 12,000, dear, not 47,000. So, I mean, she'll take little bits but leave out the rest that doesn't agree with her. Oh, that's my context. I just rearrange it. Yeah. So it's like you have to figure all that out before you can even respond to her because it's like, what's she saying? So, but enough on Jillian. Lord knows I talk about her every week because, it's just one of those things. So, let's hit. This one was kind of a interesting little article. I'm trying to pull it up because I forgot to pull up the articles before we started. Duh. This is one that you got, Morgan, the GOP candidate forced pregnant women to wear ankle monitors to prevent abortion.
Yeah, so I saw this going around a bunch of places, but I saw it on Progressive Secular Humanists. I saw it being, shared by a bunch of people. Just different outlets and things like that. And so, yeah, this is actually a GOP candidate for the Virginia State House, Bill Drennan, and he said that they should prevent abortions by forcing pregnant women to wear ankle monitors. And I was just like, all right, wait, what? Because sometimes it's like there is no bottom, and I'm like, there's nothing as insane that they can say that I'm just like, oh, of course they said that, but still I find myself being like, wait, what? Um, so Drennan said the number of abortions in Virginia in 2017 was 17,210. The number of gun deaths, the misuse, and then he says the misuse of guns, I don't know what that means, was 1,041. That's a ratio of 16 and a half to 1. Well, I mean, first of all, that's not, he's comparing deaths to deaths, and I don't think those statistics, I don't know,
They don't make sense.
they don't make sense, and I don't know what he means by the misuse of guns either. Like, does is he just counting accidents? Like, what is that? Just murders? Like, I don't understand. So Drennan said, "How about this? I'm going to impose common sense restrictions on my constitutional right to an abortion. How about ankle bracelets?" Which I love how he acknowledged that it is a constitutional right, and then he was like, "But then I'm gonna put ankle monitors on all these bitches." So then he added, "I don't think very many people would agree with this." Well, yeah. Um, so Drennan suggested that his proposal to force pregnant women to wear ankle monitors was analogous to proposals to keep guns out of the hands of dangerous people known as red flag laws. Which, no, I guess he's saying that, oh, if you're at risk, what he would deem at risk to having an abortion, then it's the same as if you had been red flagged and had your guns temporarily taken. And it's like not at all the same thing. And it's a horrible analogy. Anyways, commenting on Drennan's suggestion, Suhas Subramaniam, I'm probably butchering that last name, but yeah, Suhas, so Drennan's Democrat opponent said Drennan's proposal, if that's what he is proposing, is outlandish. Last month, Drennan made headlines after making the outlandish claim that climate change was a religion and not based on science.
Oh
And Drennan labeled himself a climate change skeptic and called into question scientific research showing the existence of climate change. Drennan said the issue of climate change had become a religion not based on science. Drennan's website falsely claims that Democrats in Richmond proposed legislation that would have eliminated restrictions on third trimester abortions and legalized infanticide. So he's saying basically,
God.
oh, they're killing babies. And so yeah, and so now he's like, "Oh, I can prevent abortions by forcing pregnant women to wear ankle monitors," which I'm very much want to. Again, he said, "Well, I'm going to put common sense restrictions on the constitutional right to one." So again, it's like, yeah, there's a constitutional right to this, but I'm going to make you be surveyed by the state constantly when that's not even happening with like gun owners with these red flag laws. They're not like surveying, the whereabouts of every single gun owner in this country at all times. No one is proposing that. And yeah, the analogy or whatever is so bad. It's just, again, it shows just a complete lack of critical thinking, and then also like a gross degree of misogyny here. I mean, it's bonkers. And just the fact that this man is running for office and he seriously thought that that was an okay like, even if he is a misogynist and just has no critical thinking skills whatsoever, the fact that he was like, yeah, let me open my mouth and say this right now, the fact that he felt comfortable in doing that, I think is very telling about where we are. And the fact that he says, oh, many people would agree with me, and it's like, you're running for office, you obviously think that they will. So I don't know what his deal is obviously here, but yeah. And then the fact that you're proposing that ankle monitors be worn, it's like, okay, well, what happens? Like, what's the threat there? Because you're wearing ankle monitors to do what? Just to know where you are, and then what? Somebody's going to physically stop you if they find out you're near an abortion clinic? And also, how do they know that you're pregnant? So yeah, the state basically, he's saying, is going to monitor women. And I mean, again, I don't think he's thought this through. He doesn't seem like a particularly thoughtful person. But again, just the misogyny and just complete lack of critical thinking. Just, I mean, this guy is running for office. So obviously, if
Well,
you're in Virginia, do not vote for Drennan. Vote for his opponent. Um,
I think
vote
when
for office.
when I read the article, it reminded me of the Adkins character that basically was like uh, women's bodies would shut down rape.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, when you said Atkins, I was thinking the Atkins
His
diet.
Yeah,
diet.
I'm probably slaughtering names, but
Yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah, but I
like
do know what you're talking about. And yeah, didn't he lose his reelection after
yes,
that?
he did, but it's like first of all, what the fuck is an ankle monitor? How is it going to prevent
Yeah,
abortion
exactly. What's his
without
implied threat there?
Well, I
what
guess if
you're
you leave
saying
your
that they're
house, it would go off or something. I don't know.
yeah, I
Yeah, you can't leave
mean
your house.
yeah,
Wow.
that to me, I mean, it's not like having an ankle monitor is can prevent a woman from having sex or being raped. Um, so what are they going to do short of what you said, Morgan? Is that basically they're asking the state to monitor just women?
House arrest.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
basically
Yeah, just go away and don't
the
be in
Scarlet
society.
Letter.
Hmm.
You know, um, it's like seriously. I mean, and from what I understand, knowing people who have had ankle monitors, um, they don't stay on. So if a person really wanted to take one off, they could. And depending on who's actually monitoring it, they can get away with it for quite a while.
Hmm.
I had one friend who, well, we're not friends anymore, um, who had an ankle monitor and she had it off within 20 minutes. And they never, it took them over a week, the monitoring company, to realize that she didn't have it on.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Where was this?
Here, where I
That's
Oh, in
kind of
live.
Pennsylvania?
scary.
Yeah, that is kind of scary. Yeah. No, 'cause some people like they so much as step out of line and that thing goes off and they send like the freaking like SWAT team. It's
Yeah,
yeah.
not
Hmm.
around here. I mean, and that's one of the problems with where we live, where I live, is that probation isn't very good here. But I'm going to say that's probably due to lack of funds and not so much the individuals doing it.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Could
then
be.
you have the whole privatization issue. And I mean, I don't know all the ins and outs, but I do know people that have bypassed that monitoring system. So it's like, yeah, let's just, paste a scarlet letter on a woman. I mean, how let's see, how long ago was that book written? The Scarlet Letter?
I mean,
I can
yeah.
Google it.
Yeah, like the 1800s, I know,
Yeah.
but I'm not sure if it was.
But yeah, I mean, it reminds me of Handmaid's Tale, too. Is
I
another one.
mean, truly. I mean, that's I think I saw a lot of the captions that I saw from people sharing it were like, yeah, this guy is wanting basically Handmaid's Tale, but come to life. And I mean,
Hmm.
what makes Handmaid's Tale I think so terrifying is also okay. Scarlet Letter was published in 1850.
1850.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
Okay, it's even
1850.
older than I thought. I was thinking 1890s. But,
And I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, just it's just bonkers. But yeah, I mean, one of the reasons Handmaid's Tale is so terrifying, and especially the show, which I mean, I couldn't even get through the first season
oh, wow.
You need
because
to
I was
finish it.
so yeah, I was just so like horrified. Like
Yeah.
it had me shook. Like I couldn't anymore because I mean even in the novel when Margaret Atwood wrote that in the 80s, she said she kind of pieced together like the different I mean making obviously under one society for her dystopian model, but these different ways in which women had been oppressed all over the world and just kind of piecing that together and then
Mm.
in the show they even have like more kind of modern things where you're seeing protesters get shot, you're seeing things that you can see happening. You're seeing genital mutilation, you're seeing, yeah, just, gay conversion, that kind of thing is, more prominent in the show. These, issues that have obviously been going on a long time, but, that are more in the public eye. And that's what makes it so terrifying, is because there are people who literally want it to be like Handmaid's Tale.
Well, when I first read the book, and I read it, I went through a dystopian novel phase about, what, 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first read the book, I was like, holy fucking shit.
Yeah, I haven't read the book because, like, again, I tried to watch. I know the book and the premise and everything like that, but I haven't like sat there and actually like made it a
I
point to
found
read
the
it.
book, like, I haven't watched the show because I don't have quote TV, and
It's very well done.
oh
Yeah, the
yeah,
Yeah,
show's
it
very well
is.
done.
everybody I
It's just
know.
I couldn't get through it because it was so like, I don't
Well,
know. It
that's
was just
I
very
could barely
scary for
get
Well,
through
me.
the
her
book.
premise in the book was that she hasn't written anything in there that hasn't happened somewhere else
Yeah,
before at
Yeah.
some point. So
yeah,
it's all true.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
Well,
just she puts it under one society and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, this could happen in America, and it has this distinctive like American kind of way about, I don't know how to explain it, but it's just
Uh-huh.
like a very that religious based, that
mm-hmm.
conservative, you can basically civil war obviously resulting in it. And you see people like, oh, if, whatever happens, I'm gonna do civil war, and I'm just like,
I
like,
could
it's just like,
I could
yeah.
see us becoming the Republic of Gilead, at least,
Mm-hmm.
parts of the Midwest and the South. I could see
Yeah.
that.
I mean, it already is in ways in some
Yeah.
places. I mean, in Mississippi, where women have no meaningful access to
Access to
reproductive
abortion.
rights.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this guy again, he's talking about, oh yeah, there's a constitutional right, but I
There's no
can,
clinics.
Well,
yeah, I can
Angela in
restrict it,
chat.
and it's another, yeah, it's like it's a meaningless constitutional right, and people bitch all the time about how if you put any kind of restriction on a gun whatsoever, then that means it's not a constitutional right. Well, bitch, like, I apparently have a
Yeah.
constitutional right to an abortion, but the closest clinic to me is, let's see, I think maybe, I'm not sure, I think there's one in Memphis. But I mean, in within, I would have to leave my state. Memphis is still in Tennessee. Like, the
Yeah.
closest one in my state is 3 hours south,
Oh wow.
In Jackson.
and that is the only one
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
in Mississippi.
Angela in chat, question comment goes, who'd qualify for this? Referring to the article. Married, single, hookers, all
Anybody.
childbearing aged women until they go through menopause.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's another thing. I was like, well, how would you know? How, and who is going to be putting the ankle monitors on? Like, is it like any woman who goes to a doctor and takes a pregnancy test? I mean, it's
Test.
like,
Uh-huh.
I'm not going to, and then I'm not going to go seek,
Any
prenatal
maternity
care.
care at all.
No, because I
Because,
don't want, like, because it's, I mean, even though I'm not doing anything wrong, like, it's kind of creepy to be like, tracked constantly.
well,
And it's
and
just
the
like
thing
none
about
of
it
your
is,
business where I'm going.
personhood came so close to passing in Mississippi. And if
Oh, we got
person
beat by the voters by and it's crazy because
and
they
if
always,
personhood passes, that means no more birth control at all. No IUDs, no BC pills, nothing.
yeah, and this was like 10 years ago, and it failed by it actually, like, people say, oh, it came close, but it actually failed by a good margin,
Well, it depends on
in
county to
Mississippi.
county. If you looked at some of the counties, they were 90% in favor
Yeah,
of.
it's some of the counties, yeah, but I mean, those counties were like, three people live,
But it's like, think, people, think.
but yeah, I know. Oh, I mean, it absolutely failed. But it's funny because they, because I think they were taken aback. They're still trying to sort of get that, whole personhood thing back in there. And it's
Yes.
funny because on the state flag issue, they claim that, voters voted on the state flag issue over 20 years ago or whenever it happened, and they voted to keep it. If you, for those of you that don't know, the Mississippi flag is basically a Confederate flag. Um, so it's really embarrassing, and it literally would do nothing to change it, and that's what kills me. I'm like, even if you like it, like, why are you objecting to just changing it? Like, it doesn't fucking matter. But Yeah, so the whole thing about them being like, oh, well, we have to respect the voters, and they voted 20 years ago, yet they're so terrified to hold another vote. And a lot of people have changed their minds since then because there's been more discourse about, obviously Confederate symbols and Confederate flags. And when the initial vote was held, there really wasn't that national conversation happening.
Mm.
And so I think they're afraid that the vote might turn out differently because there's even, Republicans in Mississippi who are like, yeah, we should change the state flag. I mean, because it's a freaking Confederate flag. Like, what the hell are we doing? Um, but yet on the personhood issue, they don't respect the voters' choice on that. Um, so, yeah, but it's just whatever's, convenient, and it's just bonkers. But I mean, obviously they haven't gone as far as saying oh, well, we need ankle monitors. But I mean, the fact that these people probably would agree with him, they may not say it out
Mhm.
loud, like this freaking dumbass Poindexter guy.
Well,
But
I think you brought up a good point at the end was about critical thinking. Is that I mean,
yeah, because he's trying to analogize it to like the gun laws, and it's
yeah,
nothing, it's not even in the same realm
yeah, not
of
even
his
close.
reasoning. Is
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, I was trying to explain theocracy and in a nutshell, which if anybody's followed me knows I'm not very good at putting things into a nutshell or theocracy for that matter. Um, but it's like when in fact, our friend Deanna was in on the conversation too, and it was like, well, what you're hearing is basically a very, very, very vocal minority who think they are the majority and they think everything has to be their way. But it, like my friend I was talking to, I said, even though you consider yourself a Christian, I can tell you right now, you're the wrong kind of Christian to them because you're more liberal in your views.
Mhm.
And yeah, she was like, oh, and that's the thing. I mean, I said, these people lack the critical thinking skills that uh, I won't say all liberals because I know some liberals that could use some critical thinking.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And I've had people accuse
Understatement.
me of saying I need some critical thinking, but I don't really follow a liberal or a progressive agenda. I follow what works. So I'm not one to. I, I don't know where I would stand on a political spectrum because I'm really not a liberal. I'm really not a progressive. I'm just whatever I am. But yeah, it's like a lot of people don't understand. I won't say they're one issue voters, but they have that mindset. They can't
Yeah, yeah.
think beyond, you know,
And I mean, there
other
are some
things.
things like when, because I know that somebody was like, oh, well, what about pro-life Democrats? And I'm like, well, then to me, that's, kind of I wouldn't even say like necessarily a third rail, but it just shows that you're willing to throw like certain people under the bus completely. And I get that not everybody's going to agree on the same issues, but I feel like that's such a basic tenet, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean things like that, yeah, I do definitely care about, but I mean, yeah, it's just, yeah. It's just a whole mess. And I just feel like, when people like start getting, all wrapped up into this debate and everything. And I would say that I'm more of a progressive because I do think that, the facts tend to support those positions.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean,
there are
I
some things
probably
like
would lean.
GMOs and things like that, but I don't consider that to be like a tenet of being progressive, if that makes any
Exactly.
sense. Like, I wouldn't say that somebody who's like, oh, I'm fine with GMOs is like anti-progressive, if that
Yeah.
makes any sense.
Yeah. See, I mean, I'm
Like that's not a
very.
basic tenet of
Yeah.
being like on the left, I feel like.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, I know both, like, using anti vax as an example, I know those that are conservative, general Republicans who are pro vaccine. I know many on the left side, whether they consider themselves liberal, progressive, whatever, that are anti vax. So it's not a left right split for that topic. And same thing with GMO. And if you look at anti GMO stance, the anti vax stance, basically any science denial, there is not a left right split. You have it on both sides of the aisle. And for me personally, when it comes down, besides policy, obviously, when determining a candidate, my, we'll say, last decider is how they stand on certain issues of science. And and I've mentioned it before, this is what made the last election for me very difficult, because they were all terrible on science. And they're not much better this time around either, but I think when it, like you said, it's not a major tenet of being a Democrat or being
Yeah.
being a Republican, maybe, well, a hardcore Republican, conservative Republican, a nut job. Because I know some Republican, like, they consider themselves Republican. They call it, they're part of the GOP, but they're not your they're not your usual, like our next article talks about, who says there's going to be violence if Trump is removed from office. Those type of Republicans.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Having a normal one.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm familiar with this story because he's one of the loons I happen to actually track, and that's Rick Wiles. And he's not the only nut job to have said this, but basically, that if President Trump is removed from office, i.e. impeached, well, impeach and removing from office are actually two different things, but technicality.
Yeah.
Impeachment is actually the, quote, trial. Removing from office is actually removing from office, because Bill Clinton was impeached, but he wasn't removed
Right.
from office. So a
Yeah,
lot of
because the
people don't
trial. Yeah.
realize it's two different things. You can be impeached and
And
not
survive
removed.
it.
Yes, and not removed from office. And there's now talk, to sidetrack, that even if Trump is impeached, he may still seek re-election in 2020.
Yeah.
And there's I don't know the legal ramifications, because I just saw the headline like maybe an hour before.
I mean, if he is impeached but not convicted, then I mean, I don't know that there'd be anything to stop you from
No,
doing it.
yeah.
There's
So
not.
Yeah, there's
I don't
not.
know exactly how this news article is using the term
Now, if he's
impeach.
convicted and removed from office,
And
like,
that's
Yeah,
different.
I
yeah,
think
that's
they were.
different. But
Yeah, they were saying he may still seek. If I only read the headlines, I didn't have time because it was maybe 45 minutes before we went live that I saw this article, and I was like,
yeah,
oh fuck. But a lot of people, when they use the term impeach, they don't use it properly.
They think it means to remove them from office when
Yes.
it's not.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's also easier to say. I get it for like shorthand, just to be like impeach.
Mhm.
Yeah, because impeach and convicted. That doesn't fit as well on a little
Yeah.
slogan.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
anyways, Rick Wiles, for those of you that don't know, runs a program called True News.
Oh, is it true?
Oh
Is it
God.
news? It is
No,
neither
Thank
it's
of
not
those
true.
things.
Yes, thank you for
Spoiler
saying
alert,
that
not
for
true.
me. Um,
Or news. Yeah.
he is, to put it gently, he's I'm going to say, an ultra right extremist, and he's a
Yeah.
loon. And pretty much every week, at least once a week, sometimes multiple times per week, he is calling for violence if anything untoward happens to our current president, Mr. Trump. And I have trouble saying President Trump, so
I refuse to say it.
I won't refuse to say it, because
I will.
he was duly elected, and as far as the office itself, it offers respect, but the man does not.
I'm former military. I would never
Yeah,
consider him my commander in chief. That's it.
you
Bottom
have a
line.
whole different line of reasoning that is not
Yes.
open to me as a non former military. But yeah, he's basically he said, quote, if they take him out, there is going to be violence in America. There are people in this country, veterans, cowboys.
Cowboys? What is
Yeah,
this,
What
1850?
the
I
hell?
know. I had to take a second look at that one. Mountain men, guys that know
Mountain
how.
Man?
Yeah,
What the hell?
you
And again, it
already.
just shows that he doesn't know who actually is like. Again, it's like with all the Trumps, they don't know who is actually like working class or anything, and all they know about like they're like who works, cowboys and mountain men. Like, what does that mean?
What the fuck is a mountain man? But
A fur trapper.
well, he goes, guys that know how to fight. And they're going to make a decision that the people that did this to Donald Trump are not going to get away with it, and they are going to hunt them down. Now, think about what he's. I mean, the mentality, as Morgan was already alluding to, the mentality here.
Is like
Cowboys.
patronizing the working class and patronizing people who live in these so-called red states, which I'm so sick of a freaking
Well,
patronizing thing that we're all the
I don't
same.
even think it's a matter of patronizing. I just think it's a matter of he's so fucking clueless.
Yeah, he doesn't know how the world works.
Yeah, he doesn't know how. It's like mountain man. What the fuck is a mountain man? I know a lot of guys here who have cabins in the woods that are really secluded. I mean, really secluded, like Berzin or not Berzinski, wrong one, Kaczynski, secluded.
Oh, yeah, good lord.
Okay,
That escalates.
yeah, Brzezinski is a pseudo cancer doctor. He,
Oh, I thought you were talking about Kaczynski.
I meant to
I thought
say
you were talking
Ted.
about the Unabomber.
Yeah, I was. This is where I was going, but I said the cancer doctor's name first. But yeah, Ted
Okay,
Kaczynski.
got you.
I know guys like that, not Unabombers, but
Oh, okay. I was like,
that have shacks in the woods like this. They're you would call them mountain men, I guess. I
mhm.
never have. Okay, my one friend I have, I joke with him because he's got a beard that goes down to about mid belly that's all scraggly, and it's like, dude, fix your beard. But anyways, but yeah, it's like they're going to hunt them down. And then he goes on. They are going to go on a rampage, and you're not going to be able to put it back in the bottle. Oh, and guess who has come up to visit? Little Mr. Fat Bastard. He hasn't been
Sorry
in.
if I'm
God.
typing too loud. I'm talking in chat.
Oh,
Oh, no, it's fine.
uh-oh. What's with Skype? We could not connect your selected camera. Please select a different. No, I don't care if my camera's not connected. That's why you guys
Boo.
couldn't see me, by the way. It's like, duh. I'm an idiot. Yeah, I'll figure the software out.
But yeah, no, just like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, Rick Wiles is not the only extreme right, as I will call them.
Yeah,
Or
no, I've heard this before. They're like, oh, if Trump, like there's gonna be an uprising, and I'm like, we won't even like everything is hell, and we still won't like uprise. So I don't know. I guess they're assuming that their own supporters will for some reason, but I mean, yeah, they've had, I mean, instances of violence. If you recall the mail bomber
mm-hmm.
that targeted, CNN because he felt like CNN was targeting Trump, and his rhetoric of being like these people are the enemy. I think that's really escalating it and making it more likely. And yeah, like I don't know. Rick Wiles has some weird fantasy that it's going to be like every single Republican is going to take up arms, and I don't think that's going to be the case. But I do think that definitely, like, if it does happen that he's removed, then it'll be worth definitely being careful and
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
and a point that going back to the whole impeachment thing, a point that Matt brought up is that if President Trump is impeached and convicted and removed from office, and that's for you, Angela. We have Mike Pence done to deal with.
Oh
And
God.
and to be honest, and I know Bridget can relate to this because Mike Pence used to be her fucking governor.
Yep.
I don't know, to be honest, I don't know which is worse because, in my opinion, Mike Pence is more dangerous than
He knows
Donald
what he's
Trump
doing. He
because
knows how politics works.
he knows what he's doing exactly, Bridget, and he knows how
Yeah.
politics work. And I mean,
Yeah, but again, also it's, I mean, I get that practicality, but again, it's sort of like the principle of like, if you just let this dude stay in office and commit crimes, then you're just
well,
setting this
yeah, and
precedent
the
for
thing
like,
is, who knows what kind of
yeah,
damage Trump can do? He's already, I mean, look at what he's done with Syria and the Kurds.
I mean,
Hmm.
yeah,
I mean, and that's what's so. At least with Pence, he's predictable.
Hmm.
We know what Pence's agenda is, and
And Pence probably would not be behind committing genocide. I'm just saying.
yeah, I'd have to agree with you there. I mean, yeah, Pence is very calculating, but he's not stupid.
No,
He
he's not
knows
stupid
what.
at all.
I mean, he
yeah.
knows what he can and can't do. He knows where
And
the
I
push.
don't think he'd win election. Like, I really don't, because
Oh, he'd
he
be a
wasn't even
he.
well liked. He's not even well liked in Indiana. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
he
was,
was going to lose his reelection bid
yeah,
here,
which
which
is
is
why it's
why
hard,
he
you
he's
he'd
not
know.
going
be
with the
like
VP ticket.
what was it? Oh
And
God,
Manafort picked him, which
yeah.
is
Yeah.
I,
pretty.
I mean, you got to think. I mean, I'm going back. I know I'm predating you, Morgan, but was it Ford that took over for Nixon, Bridget?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
um, I mean, if Trump's convicted and removed, I mean, we're gonna run into a Gerald Ford situation with Pence. I hope.
But what if Pence happens to be impeached and taken down as well?
Then it
Then
would
Nancy
go to Nancy
Pelosi becomes
Pelosi.
president.
But
So
what if Pence happens to be promoted to POTUS and gets to pick a VP, which is not voted on yet, and then he gets impeached?
it still would go to Pelosi because if it hasn't been voted on, it's not. Actually, Morgan, you might be better off answering this one than me.
I don't fucking know.
Oh, well,
I
So
from
don't.
he's
my
going
Yeah,
to
understanding, if it's
placeholder POTUS until 2020 elections, or what?
yeah,
yeah. I think it runs like that, but it's just like we haven't had a situation before where we've had, you know, a president and a vice president get
yeah,
impeached.
and
Yeah.
So I don't.
It's
there
I
is
possible.
genuinely.
talk. There
I mean,
is
people have, I'm sure, written about it because there's, you know, some nerds in the legal community who have nothing to do nothing but, you know, ponder these kinds of questions that haven't happened. But
that would
But
be
it's a
me.
possibility.
I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know because it's yeah, it's hard to
See, because
say.
Pence is implicated in all of this too.
well,
He's up to
Well,
his
then,
eyeballs in
yeah,
it.
if he's implicated, then the assumption would be, of course, that, you know, I would say then you don't get to just appoint your next vice president. Like, that wouldn't make any sense if you're
Right.
under investigation for,
yeah.
you know, these kinds of things, and then you just get to pick who gets to pardon you in the future. Like, that doesn't
That
seem like
yeah.
that meshes just on a common sense, because I think that things should operate with like some common sense behind them. I know that's very radical and
Hmm.
Well, what
It's just
left-wing, but
unprecedented. It's never happened
speaking of
before.
common sense,
yeah.
and this is a total sidebar because it's not something we were planning on. Do you find that the Supreme Court lately has been kind of, sort of pushing back against Trump? Or am I imagining it?
A little bit.
Yeah, nothing too crazy,
Yeah,
but
I mean,
nothing like fuck you. But you know, like
and just out of curiosity, and this is
just I
more.
think sending the message that hey, you don't own us necessarily. I
Yeah,
think
well,
that's been
there was some, and I wish I could remember what it was, but it was a John Roberts opinion, I believe.
Uh-huh.
And it was like, dude, you're gonna piss off a lot of people on your side. It seems like Robertson's actually realizing that he needs to be a judge first, which
Yeah.
I even people. I mean, it's like he's a smart legal mind. I mean, he's not stupid, so. I just was it was something I read last week that made me think that is the Supreme Court pushing back? Maybe. But
Yeah, that's the
I
thing. It's
realize
like maybe
he's the
you can never
head.
tell.
Yeah, I mean, I realize that he's the head of the Supreme Court, but he's kind of functioning almost like the swing voter
oh
now.
yeah, he is. He has
Roberts
been.
has to a degree before because he was the vote who actually saved VACA.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Um,
And
Yeah.
yeah,
so he
and
served that purpose before, whereas, before Kennedy was just considered, swing voter because it was more kind of unpredictable. But I think that Roberts is definitely kind of, I
He
don't know
stepped
that
it
he'll
up.
yeah, he's kind of stepped into that. Now, I don't know how much of a swing voter it'll be to where the point where he'll be unpredictable. I think he's fairly predictable depending on the issue that's coming forward, and what it has to do with. But as far as things of presidential power and things like that, yeah, I'm not he might very well fulfill a swing vote role, because if you think about it too, is like we haven't had like a impeachment, um, hopefully since Clinton, and then before that the big one obviously being Nixon.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not really, these kinds of decisions haven't obviously come up to the Supreme Court in recent years, other than I mean, especially during Nixon was when a bunch of them were coming
I
up
was
because it
8
was the
years
first
old
time.
when that was going down.
Yeah, so they were having to address, things about, tapes and, records and things like of that nature, because it was the first time it was really coming forward in modern history. But so you do have a lot of Nixon era decisions, but we haven't had this whole thing of like, oh, well, he's going to be impeached and convicted, kind of, you know, uh
Possibility.
possibility in so long, and that's gone before the court, that it's kind of hard to tell where because obviously I believe that there are some, obviously there's going to be a lot of partisan votes on this, but with Roberts and people like that, I'm not sure.
Well, I
And
think
Roberts is going to be the ultimate presider over any
Yeah,
yeah,
hearings for
yes, he
that.
will be, because he is the Chief Justice of the
yes.
Supreme Court.
And
Mhm.
I remember seeing last week that I don't know if it was Barr specifically, but I know people in Trump's camp are saying that it should be Barr that presides over it, not the Supreme.
Absolutely not. No.
And Robert's like, excuse me,
Excuse me, but
hello, that's my fucking job. So I think that's what it was. It was that article was that because they wanted Barr to oversee the impeachment process, and it's like
mm,
that's not Barr's
that's not
job.
constitutional.
Yeah, it's pretty written in the Constitution. And what I find funny, going back to the ACA, it's always been my conspiracy theory that part of the reason why Roberts voted the way he did is that I believe that he may have had a family member, whether extended or immediate, that would have been impacted by dissolving the ACA. And
Yeah, which I think judges do make better decisions when they are able to, I guess, be like, oh, well, this is how it's actually going to affect people. Because I think that's a lot of which this is getting kind of off topic and into just legal rhetoric, but I think that a lot of judges, especially when you have, I'm not saying your day-to-day circuit court judges or county judges or any of that, but when you get to especially when you get to the federal appellate level or even on the state appellate level, you're having these discussions about legal principles and legal theory and, all this, and what is the principle, and, what is the prior decisions say, and, oh, what is this legal scholarship? And you have all these discussions and these, lofty, more philosophical, legal, I mean, quite literally legalistic debates, that you kind of lose how it's affecting actual people.
yeah,
And the common sense kind of, again, which I was talking about common sense earlier, that gets, I feel like, lost in the, as opposed to, trying to make these, very intellectual,
mm-hmm.
which they should be to a, obviously you want predictability in law, and you want to look at prior decisions, and you want to look at scholarship and see what they're saying. But at the same time, I feel like a lot of this is how it's actually going to be implemented seems to kind of fall by the wayside a bit too much.
Yeah.
With
Well,
that.
I mean, I don't think you really sidetracked too much because you got to take this into consideration, even with, some of the articles that we're talking about tonight. It's that ultimately, if, God forbid, pardon my terminology there, but if Rick Wiles' bullshit wet dream comes true, or he instigates, because Rick Joyner, another Fruit Loop.
It's all the Ricks.
Yeah, I mean he's pulling the same thing. I mean he's saying that it's like, it's going to come down to these justices on the Supreme Court that are going to either have to, quell these voices of bullshit, or they're going to have to allow it and deal with the aftermath. And I think you get somebody like Roberts who, well, I don't agree with a lot of his rulings.
Oh yeah.
I mean, legally, as a legal mind, he's not stupid.
Oh no, I've met Chief Justice Roberts. He's very sharp.
Yeah, so it's funny
Wits
how,
about
like,
him.
even though we go on these side tangents, how they all interrelate, because especially now with, I mean, with the Dayglow man in office, it's like, yeah, no, it's kind of scary, It's like, so. Bridget, did you come up with any articles before we forget about you? Because we're already an hour in. We've only done 2.
Not really any articles per se. I'm just kind of sad over the loss of Elijah Cummings.
Well, yeah, that was.
And we lost John Conyers as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This,
Two big losses.
Yeah, and neither of them were really that old. I mean, okay, my mom died at 93 and a half, so that's what I compare old
Well,
to.
yeah.
But yeah, Cummings
They were
especially.
both power horses, in Congress, and they're going to be sorely missed.
Yeah, Cummings, I think, especially because of his work with civil rights and all that. It's a shame. I was
It really
I was
is.
shocked to read. I was like, whoa.
yeah, I
And
wasn't expecting it either. Yeah.
yeah, and then to read some of the reaction from the Reich. Oh my God, it's like I never should have done that. I mean, some of it was pretty disgusting.
Yeah.
I mean, especially
I've been freaking out mostly over, the California wildfires and just how crazy those are right now and how many people they're having to evacuate.
Yeah. I have a couple friends that are being affected by those rolling blackouts, and for the most part, they're accepting them for what they're trying to do, but from my understanding, it's really lack of infrastructure on PG&E's part, and by the sounds of it, my personal opinion from what little I've read is that basically they got money hungry, and they were basically like, fuck everybody else.
Well, they, haven't done any infrastructure upgrades or anything like that, but they're having to evacuate people all the way to Sonoma Coast. And 90,000 people so far. That's a lot of people.
Yeah. And a lot of homes and
a lot of homes. A lot of damage, and it's going to get worse. The winds right now are kicking up to like 74 miles per hour, and
great.
Yeah.
Great. That's a great comment. It's like everything that can go. Yeah, it's like everything that can go wrong is happening all at once to make these like awful super fires. Yeah, because I have no other way. Like, because I was like looking at the videos and the pictures, and if y'all haven't seen any of these pictures of the Getty Fire or any of the other ones in California, you definitely need to look at them because it looks like what I imagine, in a when you see from books and descriptions and stuff, like it looks like the mouth, you just entered the mouth of hell. Yeah. Like it's just everything is burning. It looks like freaking Mordor. Like it is absolutely bonkers. It doesn't even look real. that stuff can just like burn like that. It's so scary, and yeah, it is going to get worse because of climate change. And
Mm-hmm.
but no one wants to address that because it's inconvenient for them. So and I'm like, well, yeah, it's inconvenient for people to have to suffer like this needlessly. Um, because I mean, you can't even. I mean, there's no way you can get around it. I mean, climate change is going to exacerbate these, and it has been causing these to intensify and get worse and worse. I mean, yes, wildfires have happened in the past and always will happen, but I mean, the degree of these fires is just it's crazy.
Well, I
Yeah.
know when I went to California, and we're going back quite a few years, like 1977. Um, we went. It was during wildfire. In fact, my aunt's house at the time, you could see the smoke. I mean, it wasn't super super close where we had to evacuate or anything, but you could see the smoke from it. And
Mm-hmm.
back then, it looked like kind of just a hazy day. And a friend of mine who lives there now, not far from where my aunt's house was in Orange County, and there was so much smoke from these forest fires that you know there were people that couldn't even go out in it because they had asthma so bad that they were for health wise. I mean, it was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh my god, you couldn't see anything. It was just like major major fog. It's like, and it wasn't just from one fire. There were like three or four going on at the same time.
Yeah, when I was out there, because a few years ago, I think it was about 2 years ago, we drove to Washington State, Jonathan and I, and when we didn't even go through California, which is where a lot of these fires were. Now there were some in Oregon because I could see where some of the country had just been scorched. But when we were in Boise, so when we were in Idaho, you couldn't see the mountains surrounding the city at all because of the smoke from wildfires in California. That's how intense they were, and this was like 2 or 3 years ago. But yeah, the fact that the smog from a different state had caused that much smog to where you can't even see the mountains surrounding your town, and a wildfire that's like hundreds and hundreds of miles away was just bonkers to me. And then going to Washington, it was still, I mean, smoggy and hazy. And then in Oregon, where the wildfires weren't happening anymore, but the smoke from the California ones it was still there. It was absolutely crazy how much it affects, not just the places where it's burning, but also the surrounding
Mm-hmm.
areas too. And
Mm-hmm.
they were even telling people like, hey, if you have asthma, try not to go outside. If you're, elderly, or, keep your children inside. And it's just like that's just crazy to me that it's getting that bad to where somebody in a different, like a whole ass different state has to like keep their kids inside because going outside and breathing is too dangerous.
Well, there's not even a wildfire season anymore in California. It's year round.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Matt's saying that in 2009, his aunt and uncle lost their house down in the San Diego area. I'm assuming to a wildfire since that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
And he said they lost everything. I mean, that's got. I mean, I've been through just a normal apartment fire and I lost everything, and so I can imagine losing a whole house of everything. It would be
Yeah,
just
my cousin-in-law, her house burned to
devastating.
her childhood home burned to the ground that her mother was still living in, and recently they think that lightning struck it, but
Oh,
yeah.
2003, not 2009. I can read. Yeah!
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
I
yeah, it's
read
just
real
absolutely
well.
devastating. And so when you see like people's homes burned to the ground completely, like in a mass event, it's just because it's devastating enough when it's only like, I mean, it's always very devastating when one person loses their home, and but then what do you do when your whole neighborhood's gone? It's
Oh,
And when
just
the
yeah.
whole
yeah,
town is gone, like Paradise,
Yeah, I
yeah,
was just
California, it's
gonna
just
say,
it's
just like
gone.
gone.
Paradise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
they're just gone.
and I think to side rail our conversation again as usual as we do on the show. Um, yeah, climate change doesn't exist.
No, it's a Chinese hoax
Oh
or
God.
something.
Oh God.
But
Yeah, I
Trump
read
said
that
climate
again
change
the
is
other day.
a
I saw
Chinese
that.
hoax.
I was thinking, oh my God. This guy's worse than some of the con-nutters I deal with.
Well, and speaking of climate change, we have something really bizarre going on here in Indiana.
What's that?
This is what, almost the end of October,
Mm-hmm.
and we are inundated with baby crickets. This is not the time of year for baby crickets.
No.
Normally, it's like spawning season for adult crickets to lay eggs and overwinter the eggs and then have them hatch in the spring. But no, we have babies everywhere.
That's so weird. So it's
Now,
like they
here's the
came out
reason.
early.
Yeah, and we're gonna
I
have
heard about
killing
cicadas
fleas.
doing that. Like the cicadas, I hear, because they're supposed to come out like every 10 years or so. Like I've heard that those kind of cicadas have also been like hatching early because heat apparently has to do with a lot of insects like life
Mhm.
cycles. And
Yeah.
so they're getting these signals. It's staying warmer and warmer and warmer. So the whole life cycle's like kind of changing.
Well, it got like a little chilly for a few days, and so now we have all these little
Yeah.
babies that hatched, and we're gonna have a killing freeze in about 3 days.
Yeah.
Dead babies.
Yeah.
And the things that eat them in the spring are not gonna have any babies to eat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yay! So there goes part of the food web.
Oops, wrong button.
But climate change is not real.
Yeah.
So, okay, for a change of pace, to get off of this really fucking depressing shit,
Yeah.
this was an article. It was actually from Yahoo, of all places, but it was a Time magazine thing that they, I don't know, aggregated, I guess is the word. It was talking about, well, the headline is, he's the first African. Get out of the way, you stupid ad. First African American to receive a face transplant. And according to the headline, his story could change healthcare. And I thought this a really interesting story because it's not something you would think of. I mean, I'm going to be point blank as a white person that we would even consider. Maybe those in the healthcare industry might be more attuned to this than, general lay public, but um, recently Robert Chelsea had a face transplant. He was horribly disfigured in a car accident when a drunk driver hit his car and the car exploded. Of course, he had burns over, I think they said 80% of his body. I don't remember.
Oh my gosh.
But they offered him a face transplant, which, if I'm reading this correctly, occurred in May of 2018. From all reports so far, everything with the face transplant is going well as far as, getting the muscle tone and all that other stuff that goes along with it. But what's interesting that I noticed about this article is that basically he was offered one face transplant and he declined it because the skin tone wasn't quite right. He's more darker, is that even a phrase? It is now.
It is now.
Yeah, skin complexion than what the donor tissue would have been. So he would have had his what was visible overall darker skin tone with a lighter facial skin tone, and he just was like, no, I don't think that'll work. I mean, we all know the horror stories about being black and stuff. This would just probably have made his life even more miserable than it already was. So he came up, another donor came up that was a good skin tone match, and he accepted it and had the transplant and all that other stuff. And one of the comments the doctors made in regards to rejecting the first transplant was that since the first partial one was performed in France in 2005, fewer than 50 face transplants have been done worldwide. A new patient joining the ranks is always noteworthy, but Chelsea's case carries even more weight than usual because he is the first African American to receive a full face transplant. Chelsea's treatment is expected to have a ripple effect that transcends transcends his case. Disparities in the medical system that cause Black Americans to die at a higher rate than whites of so many different things. Heart disease and diabetes are very high among African Americans. And they also list cancer, HIV, and AIDS. Widespread mistrust of the medical system has made many African Americans wary of tissue donation, contributing to donor shortages, in turn, blah, 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 blah. And what caught me was the mistrust of the medical system. And I'm like, what are they talking about? So they went down further and they actually, oops, I hate when they do that, talked about the whole syphilis case. And
yeah, that makes sense to me, though.
yeah,
I can
and the
see
thing
it.
is, I never even really thought of that before, and I'm like, holy hell. Here's something that we know. It's, we kind of knew it went on. We knew what the results were, but I don't think any of us really have thought of the ramifications of it, how it's caused this mistrust, especially for African Americans. It's like, wow.
Yeah,
I
I
just
get it.
I just thought it was just kind of an interesting. I mean, it was a good article in the sense that the guy got the face transplant, and hopefully everything goes well with that. I mean, he's still getting like muscle control in his face. It's still kind of droopy, for lack of a better word. But it's like I never really thought of the ramifications. I mean, overall
So the whole
ramifications.
Muskogee thing
Yeah,
would
I mean,
affect that many people to make them distrust
yeah,
medicine.
yeah, to distrust medicine of all things. And it's like, and they said, the barriers went up long before Chelsea was born in 1932, and I forgot it was that long ago.
Yeah.
Researchers from the U.S. Public Health Service launched a study in Alabama's Tuskegee,
Tuskegee.
thank you, Institute that would change the American medical system for decades to come. The trial was covertly designed for researchers to observe the effects of untreated syphilis over the course of 4 decades. 600 black men, mostly sharecroppers, enrolled in the trial, lured by the promise of free transportation, meals, and medical care. About 2/3 of the men had syphilis, and half were given the then standard treatment of arsenic and mercury. I don't think that would happen now. Uh, the other infected men were given no treatment at all, even after penicillin was discovered to be an effective syphilis therapy in the 1940s. They were left to die, pass the disease on to partners and children, or develop complications, and it goes on. It's like, I knew about it. We learned about it in school, obviously, and here and in high school, but I never realized how dramatic the effects have been. I mean, who would think that? I mean, obviously, face transplants are, I won't say, well, they're not unusual, but they don't occur as often as regular transplants. Or it's like, but even for treatment of diabetes and heart disease and all, it's like, to have something like that hanging over you, to that thought, what happened back then, hanging over you on whether to go see a doctor or not because your foot's falling off. Yeah, it just kind of was mind blowing. But it was
Yeah.
I mean, I did find a couple other articles because I wanted to see how he was, how he was taken to the transplant. And from everything I can tell, it's been a good, so far successful. So, which is cool. But I just thought it was kind of interesting in the sense that the whole, Tuskegee, to think that, what, 70 odd years later, it's still,
They'll have an effect
yeah,
on what they think.
yeah.
Yeah.
I just thought it was kind of mind blowing.
Well,
I mean, yeah, I
I
can see
guess
where it
you
would.
could. I
Oh,
guess you could
I can
compare
understand.
it
I just
to.
never really thought about it. I mean, it's like, yeah, you learn all this stuff, when you're in school, and you don't realize the ramifications it has.
Yeah,
It's
it
like,
does.
wow. I mean, I'm not one to go to the doctor unless, if I go to the doctor, I'm sick. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
same.
probably why it took Dave and Deb like 3 days to convince me to go to the hospital when I had my first stroke, because I thought I had the flu. Yeah.
But you're not going there in mind thinking that the doctors are going to be, testing things on you or deliberately trying to get you
Uh-oh.
sick.
Wait a minute. Hold on. What the hell happened? Okay, repeat that. I didn't
But
hear a word you said.
I said, but then again, you're not going with the, idea in the back of your head that they're going to deliberately experiment on you or try to harm you in some way
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's happened to,
in the past.
either, yeah,
Yeah,
in
and
your
that's the
past,
thing.
somebody in your community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, part of my problem is my uncle was my doctor for 20 years, 21 years, almost through college. And so I have a very high standard of what I consider proper care.
Yeah.
And most doctors in hospitals don't meet that standard, and I have yet to have a doctor even come close to the standards my uncle had. So yeah, I'm really hesitant to, like, right after my stroke. I'm on my 5th doctor since my stroke 5 years ago.
But
I've
as
had
far
it.
as not understanding the ramifications, I think
Yeah,
the closest thing I could compare it to would be like rape culture, how
yeah,
men don't understand that women look underneath their cars and, go out with car keys in their hands and things like that because they don't think about what
right.
would happen if they
Yeah,
get raped constantly.
yeah. It's
It's
just,
just not there.
yeah. I just thought, it just is like, wow. And I mean, there's other issues that we could probably analogize it to that's going on,
Yeah.
currently going on, but it's just like, you know, to think that that type of mindset, which isn't wrong, would affect, whether you got treatment or not, no matter what it was for. It's just, it's kind of scary. It's
Yeah.
like, really. But I just thought it was kind of, it was a good article in the sense that he got the transplant. It was a bad article in the sense that it brings up that whole issue of, Tuskegee. It's like, wow,
Hmm.
just kind of mind blowing. So let's see, what should we do next? Oh,
I don't know.
I got a good one.
Okay.
This one is from Nerdy Me. The other day, I'm, scrolling through my feed. Hold on, I gotta transfer the link over here. They had an article on Fox News, believe it or not. Every now and then they do have a decent article. And they title it Mysterious Pointy and Lengthened Skulls. Discovery sheds new light on strange ancient ritual. So they're talking about the elongated skulls that they use for the boards and stuff. Well, moons
Yeah.
ago, well, not that long ago, about 10 years ago, I got into the whole thing about the Nephilim and the Anunnaki when I was involved in paranormal. So it's kind of an odd topic, but it's one that, nerdy me kind of hooked onto. But basically, the belief among the Genesis giants and the Nephilim and the Anunnaki ancient alien bullshit is that those with elongated skulls, the mummies and the bones that they're finding, are part of that whole bullshit. When there is good archaeological and historical evidence for different cultures to purposely do that to a child for whatever reason. But those that follow the ancient alien Anunnaki stuff believe they are the quote gods, and it was, you know, how the cultures back then tried to imitate the gods. So it's a subject that got hijacked by that whole group, which was, it's kind of concerning, and it's still concerning because if you delve into the whole, especially the ancient aliens and the Nephilim thing, the Nephilims bullshit, the mindset behind there, the us versus them, is still being used today. And I don't do as much delving into it as I did before, but I do keep an eye out on it. And from what I can tell, the actual article, I mean, it's a legit article. And basically, what they were saying is that artificial cranial deformation is a deliberate act performed on infants when the aim is to achieve a desired skull shape using boards, pads, or specifically made headdresses. I'm not going to try to pronounce the name because I'll probably slaughter it, but it's Kendra. Okay, and she's a postdoctorate fellow at Harvard Medical School. So basically, it's a legit archaeological, finding, and they have pictures of the skulls, and you can actually see on the one skull where the marks from this one looks like, it doesn't really say, but it looks like it, to my untrained eye, where you can see the markings of the boards that they used to shape the head and then put the binding on. But yeah, it's just like, oh, but yeah, they got in. They were just getting. I mean, coming from Fox News, I was kind of surprised, because it's like, oh, you didn't. They didn't even mention ancient aliens.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's like, I mean, I should give them some credit, but
Maybe it's because it is Fox News, and I feel like that's more of like a, I don't know,
yeah. But
like just out there thing. I mean, I guess a lot of people on the like we're talking about anti-vax, like a lot of people from all across the spectrum of politics, I feel like are
oh,
into the ancient aliens thing.
actually, I'm not going to mention any names, and if you figure out who I'm talking about, please do not drop the name because, yeah, we've had a prior guest who's into the ancient aliens, but I think it's more from the scenery's cool perspective, but it's like, seriously, considering the.
Oh, I have a friend who watches it, but she does it to laugh. Like,
Well,
yeah,
yeah, I do have friends that are,
Entertainment.
but yeah, this one person, I'm like, I can't quite figure out exactly what
yeah,
mindset
what
they're
they're doing.
coming from, but it's like, okay, this is totally antithetical to your writing. It's like, I hope it's for the scenery, as you say, but yeah, I know all kinds that believe in crap like that. It's like, it just blows my mind. I mean, it's like, you know, I mean, I have friends within the atheist community who are 9/11 truthers.
Ugh.
I mean, so it there really, to me, is, when it comes to conspiracy theory or truther theory, whatever you want to call them, there is no political divide. Granted, a majority fall on the right side of the aisle, but I know just as many left that believe in crazy crap like that. So it's like, I mean, 9/11, I used to work in a sintering factory where we sintered metal parts. In other words, we made them harder. And the whole premise behind sintering is to take the powdered form of the metal, compact it into the appropriate shape that you want it, and then you run it through a really, really large oven that gets really, really hot, and you take it to the point where it hardens, and then you cool it off, and it becomes whatever you want it to be, and can withstand, depending on the type of metal you use and a bunch of other stuff, becomes hard, i.e., like girder steel. But the girder steel does have a melting point or a softening point. And when I first heard of 9/11, it's like, oh, so the steel girders softened from all that heat. Gee, imagine that. I mean, it was before anything even came out. as far as that stuff, it's like that's all we talked about at the plant for like a week. It was like how the metal, you take it up to a certain temperature, it's going to soften that steel. It's not going to melt it. Well, depending on what type of metal it is, it's not going to melt it, but it'll soften it to the point it'll fracture. Or it'll harden it even more till it cracks. I mean, just like when you crack ice water, you take water, you freeze it, hit it with something hard, it's going to fracture, just like glass. Same principle applies with the girders in 9/11. It's just crazy stuff. But yeah, I was really surprised. I mean, no mention of ancient aliens in this, no mention of Nephilim, just straight up archaeology. At least.
Oh my god.
Although the comments were quite interesting.
I mean, the comments I feel like on anything is quite interesting.
Yeah. I the other day I posted something, and I just posted the comments. I don't remember what article it was. I'd have to look, but it's like the comments were just fucking out there. It's like, seriously, people? It might have even been this article. I don't remember. But let me scroll to the comments real quick, see if it was. It might have been. Oh, I think it was. I think it was this article. Yeah, because they were talking about, the DNA is not human, and it's like, they didn't talk about DNA in this article. It's like, yeah, it's like, seriously, you're gonna take what appears to be legitimate archaeology and twist it to your fucking ancient alien views.
Jesus.
I'm trying to find one of the comments that I highlighted, but it might have been too far.
A lot of the ancient aliens thing is also like somebody pointed out that it's kind of racist, because it's like, oh, these civilizations couldn't have possibly had all this technology or figured it out because they're in Africa and South America, and yeah.
One of the things I did discover
Yikes.
in my quote literature review, we'll call it, because I didn't really research, I didn't go into a lab, is that part of the problem with the ancient alien hypothesis is that it's very racist. At the root, like you were saying, at the root core of it is that they're just fucking black people.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
And if you now, I'm not saying Zachariah Sitchin was racist.
Yeah, I'm not saying all of them are, I'm not obviously saying that all of them are racist, but yeah, the foundational thing that,
you take it outside of Sitchin's work, it becomes very racist. And what a lot of people don't realize, and this is why it still concerns me even to this day, and I still bring this point up when I get into especially white supremacists, because at the root of the white supremacist movement, their ideology, their doctrine, the KKK falls in. They are Christian organizations, and I've spoken to it before. It's called the serpent seed doctrine, which depending on.
I was listening to a podcast where that came up. It was about somebody who was a God, I cannot remember. I know it was the last podcast on the left, but they were talking about somebody who was a murderer or something, and he was raised in that kind of. Yeah, and that's how it's tied to white supremacy. Yeah. They touched on that a little bit too.
Yeah, what it is that depending on which view of the whole Nephilim giants, Genesis 6:4 giants you take, and what narrative you follow, because there are a couple variations. Some believe that it goes back to the overarching narrative goes all the way back to Adam and Eve, and when they had Cain and Abel. And some believe, and this is where the serpent seed doctrine comes from, that Adam, I know where my mind is. Eve was basically, to put it bluntly, fucked by the devil. So Cain was the spawn of Satan. Abel was the spawn of Adam. Some believe they were twins. I don't know how they could figure that being two different quote seed. So anything that's bad in the world came about through Cain, hence the serpent seed doctrine, because he was supposedly fathered by Satan. And then it carries forward, and a lot of your, not all, but a lot of your Aryan white supremacist group hold to that doctrine. Not necessarily the Genesis 6:4, but if you delve deep enough, there are some white supremacist groups that do hold to that. And it's basically, if you hear them talking about spiritual warfare, and this is not just Aryan Nation, but Cindy Jacobs is one, I believe Paula White is another one. Some of you,
I hear that. I heard that term a lot, though, in more mainstream churches to mean, like when you're battling against, I guess evil and Satan and that kind
the
of thing.
forces of evil. And basically it goes to a passage in Ephesians, and I can't remember, I want to say 6:12, but that might not be right. But there are two connotations to the whole notion of spiritual warfare. You have the general, we'll say non-nastiness, but some have taken it to literally mean, and this would be people like, let's see, Rob Skiba, Tim Horn, Chuck Missler was of this view, kind of, sorta. He's passed now. So some of your more ardent Nephilim supporters support this view, is that the spiritual warfare they're talking about, where you gird up your armor, you'll hear especially and this is used by the Reich. We had that spat of Noah movies. The spiritual warfare they're talking about is they believe even after the flood, the spirit of the Nephilim survived. The flood did not kill the Nephilim. It may have killed them physically, but spiritually it did not. Some also hold the view that Ham's wife...
This reminds me of Thetans.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that in there if you want to, but I've never seen that comparison made. But yeah, so when they're talking the more diehard, hardcore, when they're talking about spiritual warfare, they're talking about culling out the Nephilim of today's society. In other words, the spiritual warfare gives them the right to do whatever because they're of Satan. I mean, it's a lot more detailed than that, but yeah, you have to really listen to what they're implying because they do use a lot of the same terminology. But yeah, and the serpent seed doctrine actually has a fairly long history. But
yeah, it does. Yeah, but serpent seed, spiritual warfare, I heard, was very much in that general sense, and they weren't like serpent seed at all. Because I mean, they were the teaching that Cain was the son of Adam, not like the devil.
Yeah,
but
this is literally Cain was the son of the devil, and anything bad in the world came through him. Generally,
well, some other white supremacy groups, they also hold to the, and I know this kind of was the foundation of Joseph Smith's whole thing about black people, but Sons of Ham is another one.
The Curse of Ham.
And then also Mark of Cain, which that's a whole other thing too. But
yeah, there's so many variations on
versions of white supremacists.
Well, not so much versions of white supremacists, but variations on their ideological tenets and where they get them from. Some of them are quite open. Like I know this one white supremacist website I went to. It was like, holy fucking shit, what am I reading? It's like, it was so out there. I mean, theologically, that it's like, as an atheist, I even considered it heresy. It's like, no, that's not what I was taught. I mean, I came from sort of kind of a conservative denomination, but my church was kind of liberal, if that makes any sense. But yeah, it's like and that's the thing, like, why I think the whole ancient alien, the Nephilim, is especially when they bring up the Georgia Guidestones. Jillian,
Mm-hmm.
she's hooked on the Georgia Guidestones and the 500 million being the cutoff number, and her being the sole her with Jilly Juice being the sole arbitrator of who lives and who dies. Yeah, don't tell me she's not a white supremacist. Yeah, you don't bring
Touche.
that, you don't pull that out your ass. She pulls her shit out her ass, but that's not something you pull out your ass. You're taught that crap. But yeah, it can be really dangerous in the wrong hands, and that's where a lot of these nut job preachers like Rick Wiles, and I'm not saying he's a supremacist or anything, but they get these teachings and they warp them so badly that he's literally, I mean, Wiles, Rick Joyner, that clan, they're literally trying to incite violence, which makes articles like we read before just insane. But so, do you want to hit the umpire, Morgan, or is that you typing?
I was typing. I was asking Clockwork Rex about his nickname.
Ah, well, this
just
is
because I'm curious.
Oh, that's fine. I just heard typing and no response from Morgan, so I thought she was typing away.
I'm back from my pee emergency. Hello.
Yeah. Yeah, this was a story Morgan. I mean, I saw it, but this is one she had brought to my attention, and I'll post a link to these stories in the show notes. I didn't know which ones we'd get to or how many we'd get through, knowing the way we talk. So, and this is another sportsy related one as well. So, do you want to take it away, my dear? Why did I lose? Oh, hold on, Morgan. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I lost Morgan.
I cannot hear Morgan.
Yeah, where did you go?
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good deal. Okay, good deal. So I found this on Progressive Secular Humanist blog is the main article that I found, but I found multiple others. CBS had them, NBC, it hit all the major outlets. But what I did not know that I found from a Progressive Secular Humanist was that this umpire runs a Christian ministry. So just keep that in mind as I read. So Rob Drake, he's a Major League Baseball player, umpire. He threatened to get a gun and start a civil war if Trump is impeached, which is, echoing what we talked about with Rick Wiles. So the Major League Baseball umpire made headlines earlier this week after he promised to buy an AR-15 in preparation for a civil war if Trump is impeached, which honestly, I'm surprised somebody like this doesn't already have one, but he tweeted, I will be buying an AR-15 tomorrow because if you impeach, all caps, my president, this way, again, all caps, you will have another civil war. Civil is spelled CIVAL. 3 exclamation points, hashtag MAGA 2020. So I will be buying an AR-15 tomorrow because if you impeach my president this way, you will have another civil war. Hashtag MAGA 2020. So Drake deleted the tweet because, people were like, yo, man, this is wild. So, yet the obvious spelling error of a strategically placed all caps and the threat of gun violence are the actions of a deranged, broken human being. Jesus, Progressive Behemoth. The fact that Drake runs a Christian ministry, is also troubling. So, Friendly Atheist actually reported this and said it's worth mentioning that Drake is also a co-founder of Calling for Christ, a ministry specifically catering to major and minor league umpires. According to a 2007 article, it's a ministry, a Christian ministry that specifically caters to major and minor league umpires, which because Drake is an umpire. According to a 2007 article about the group, even though there are only 68 umpires in the majors and up to 150 in the minors, an astonishing 80 of them were members of the ministry. In an attempt at damage control, he apologized for his remarks and said, I want to personally apologize to everyone that my words made feel less safe. You threatened to kill everyone. Like, what? Yeah, we felt less safe. You said you were going to go, like, start a war and, like, kill me. I especially want to apologize to every person who has been affected by gun violence in our country. I also acknowledge and apologize for the controversy this has brought to Major League Baseball, my fellow umpires, and my family. I never intended to diminish the threat of violence from assault weapons or violence of any kind. I'm going to learn from this. I fucking hate it when these men say, like, oh, well, this is an opportunity for me to learn. It's like, it happened yesterday. You didn't have time to, like, don't sit here and pretend you grew as a person. This is so clearly from, like, a PR team. Once I read what I had tweeted, I realized the violence in those words and have since deleted it. No, you deleted it after people drew attention to it. I know that I cannot unsay the words, but please accept my sincerest apologies. No, thank you. Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, and the question remains, is he really sorry he threatened violence, or is he just sorry he got caught and called out for his deplorable threats of gun violence? Apparently, he is being investigated by Major League Baseball. Previously, Drake tweeted that Obama was not born in the United States and also sent a tweet to Hillary Clinton calling her an expletive, I assume that means fucking liar, while demanding the truth about hashtag Benghazi. Bottom line,
I think he's taking this Army of Joel thing a little too seriously.
Yeah, and clearly he wasn't sorry about those tweets. I mean, what made the only reason, I mean, obviously he wasn't threatening to do a civil war, but he was like, tweeting out conspiracy theories about Barack Obama, racist conspiracy theories, and these conspiracy theories about Hillary Clinton, very much rooted in sexism and just nonsense. And yeah, but then when he gets called out for his tweet that goes beyond the pale completely, I mean, I'd say those other two are beyond the pale too, but this one obviously threatening direct violence, that's the one that that's when he's like, oh, I've decided to grow as a person. It's not that, and again, it's like this whole, like, I'm so tired of these men, especially these like privileged white men who are just all like, oh, well, I'm growing as a person. It's like, you did this yesterday. How have you grown? Because you got caught and called out? Like, no, it'd be one thing if you like, and even then it's like, you're not ever, I think, some people are like, oh, you should always forgive people whenever they apologize. I'm like, no, and especially not if they, didn't actually take accountability other than just being like, oh, my action had a consequence and I'm sorry about the consequence. Like, that's literally all this is happening. So, that, and the fact that he runs a Christian ministry, which apparently, like, a good amount of the umpires are part of, is, very disturbing.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, as far as, up to this point, and I may have missed it if Major League Baseball has made any type of response to this. I mean,
I think they have since, but I will look as you speak.
It's like, yeah, he's allowed to have his beliefs outside of his profession.
Well, I mean, he threatened to murder people.
But then, see, and this is where I mean, okay, I mean, like, for us here on our panel, we don't have the notoriety of a major league umpire or someone that's in Hollywood, etc., etc. But I'm very, usually, sometimes I do lose my cool. I'm very conscious of what I say, to not make threats, to not speak an untruth. I mean, everything I say, I try to back up with some type of, documentation. Just because there's nothing more embarrassing when you're a semi-public figure, which we all are. Being on Beyond Our Park, being called out for something stupid, like a stupid error. But if I were to go on air and threaten somebody to kill them,
Yeah, that's
yeah, I
beyond.
mean that,
Yeah.
and
I
that's
mean, even if you are nobody, like that's just absolutely beyond. Like it doesn't even matter of a notoriety you have because I mean, this guy, I would say being a Major League Baseball umpire isn't really, I mean, it's just a job. It's not like he's a public official either, you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like he's not, or even like the commissioner of Major League Baseball. Like I would say for the most part, I wouldn't know who the hell this guy was, if I
yeah,
saw him walking down the
yeah,
street.
and that's the thing when
But then when you tweet, something like he literally was like, I'm going to be murdering people.
yeah, I mean it's like, I try to be very careful with what I say because I don't want something I say in error, whether it be a threat or whatever, all of a sudden being all over fucking Twitter. That's the last thing I want because dealing with the ramifications can be uh, for lack of a better word, career ending. But
Yeah, and he could face
yeah,
somebody was talking about how yeah, that he can, but technically there's a law that he can be, prosecuted under because he's basically threatening a
yeah,
violent insurrection.
yeah. It's
Um,
just
but he probably won't be, but still, like the fact that, I think they're still doing an investigation
yeah,
um into it, but yeah, it's very, very troubling. And then the fact that you're like, oh well, I didn't realize
yeah.
until
I
after I read
mean,
it. No, you knew exactly what you were doing. And also you can have and again, you typed out that you thought those words, so there's more to, oh, I just tweeted out.
well,
Like,
and the
no, you
thing
thought
is,
about it, you wrote it, and then you hit send and you let it stay up on Twitter until
you were called out.
it started hitting the news because people were like, I guess people who, it hit sports writers first, because sports writers would be more familiar with, these umpires and who they are, and then that's when it hit the mainstream. Because again, like I wouldn't know this guy, and I'm, pretty into sports, but I don't know who all the umpires are,
Yeah.
necessarily. Like I don't really
Well,
follow
and
that.
then like even you said like his quote apology.
It's
Um,
so it sounds so candid and
it's so
sincere, and
can't.
it's
Yeah,
like
exactly. I looked at this guy's
only in 5 minutes.
history, and it's like you didn't write that. I
Yeah,
mean,
no,
it's
no,
all
he didn't write
PR, but it's like words have consequences, folks. I mean,
it. They do.
it's like once you say something, especially what this gentleman said, if he can,
Yeah, something bad, violent, and just
yeah,
like
it's like,
vultures.
and then
Yeah.
just say, "Oh, I didn't mean to say that."
Oh,
Not really.
sorry.
And next thing you know, someone's got their head blown off. I mean, there was a time even where I live now where I was literally afraid to leave my apartment because I was afraid some asshole was going to take a pot shot at me out of the window. And I do mean shooting me in the head because I'm
Yeah.
gay. Pretty much people know now that I'm an atheist, but at the time people did not. But everybody knew I was gay. Hell, everybody knew I was gay before I even got here. Thanks to my
Yeah.
ex sister in law. I mean, it's like, yeah, I was literally afraid to leave my apartment because I'd already been physically accosted once. Nothing serious, nothing I couldn't handle, but it's like seriously, and I finally said, "Fuck it! If somebody wants to take a shot at me, go for it. You just better hope to God you don't miss. You better be a good shot because I will come after your butt." It's like,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
it's like, but I would never say, "Oh, well, so and so, well, doxing, so and so said this, go get him." No, you don't operate that way. At least I don't.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
It's like, yeah, words have consequences. That's why I try to be careful with what I say. I'm not always perfect, but somehow we've managed to blow through 2 hours. And we actually hit all our articles. I think
Good job.
I think that's a first for us.
Awesome.
Release the balloons.
Yeah.
Good job, all.
Yeah, it's like 99 out of 100 times when we get talking about, when we do news segments, we I'll have a list of, a bunch of articles, and I was like, we never got through, sometimes half of them. We'd be lucky to get through 4.
Oh yeah.
But it's like I
Us
said
never.
before, I like, getting together with you guys and talking and whatever.
Yeah,
I mean, this is
sure.
basically y'all are listening on a phone conversation. There's
Huh,
no rhyme
okay.
or reason, the only thing I scripted out for this was what articles to pull up. I didn't.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, as I said, I'll post a link to the articles if you guys are interested. It'll be in the show description. Probably I'll say by tomorrow afternoon because I'm probably gonna head to bed soon. But
Yeah.
so Brigitte, where can we
Yeah.
find you, my dear?
Well, if you're interested in sending me a friend request, you can find me on Facebook, Bridget Fitch, or drop by my blog at bridgetfitch2112.wordpress.com. Or you can see me on Saturday nights, early Sunday morning, whichever you want to call it, on Holy Crap the Blogcast. It's at 11:05 Central, 12:05 a.m. Eastern on Sunday, but 11:05 Central Saturday night, my time.
And Miss Morgan, besides working,
All
where can
right.
we find you?
Yeah, no, you can find me working all the time. You can find me on Twitter and on Instagram mainly. Those are the best places to follow me. At Mostring, that's Mostring. So yeah, go follow me there.
And regretfully, Sammy couldn't be with us tonight, and I forgot to mention this earlier. She's traveling, I believe, to see her significant other, and I believe she's actually in California right now, but I may be mistaken.
Yeah, California bound.
Yeah, so you can find her on Facebook under Samantha Mondegreen. If you don't remember how to spell that, you can look to my friends list. Mine's not really big, so it shouldn't be too hard to find. I'm not like Deb, who had 5,000 friends.
I don't have 5,000 either, so.
I only have maybe 300, and I just deleted a bunch because I'm like, do I really even pay attention? No, bye.
Yeah, she deleted my ass too. How about that?
Huh?
Kidding. I'm kidding.
No, I didn't delete you. I almost did. Because of where your name ended up on my list, but yeah, so. But yeah, so you can find Sammy on Facebook. If you do send friend requests to any of us, make sure, if possible, I don't even know if it's possible, to let us know it's show related, or we may just ignore you. And you can find me easiest ways on Twitter, Dune998. I do post links to stuff I update on my blog. Well, I should say blogs, because I've been working on both of them lately. And my primary blog is Havoc and Chaos, and then I also have another blog I call I Science Do You, which is primarily science related, but I cross post most of my Jilly juice stuff to there, and I've been knee deep in her crap, literally, for like 3 weeks now. It's just, yeah, I'm just trying to get under her skin. I think it's working. But, and I also still post about the diddling priests and religious folks that think they do no wrong. And though some of those that support it, but that's neither here nor there. Like, Catholics that still tie to the church, that just blows my mind. And I have Catholics in my family, so I haven't gotten through to them on that one. But yeah, you can find me either Twitter, Havoc and Chaos, or you can find me on Facebook under Beth A. Hambridge. And of course, we have Beyond the Trailer Park, the show page, which is not as prone to interaction, but I do post, when our next show is. And then we have our group page in conjunction with Holy Crap, which is also an Atheists on Air Beyond the Trailer Park, and it does have 3 questions to be allowed in. I do keep a tight control. If you don't answer the questions, generally you do not get in, because we did have trolls try to take it over. So, granted, it's been 2 years, but I'm still keeping it as a request only to join. And then so you can contact me at either page. I usually check it. I tried to every day, sometimes every other day, depends on work. Planning on a show in 2 weeks. I don't know what our topic's going to be yet. I'm still trying to get the kinks out of broadcasting, so I'm still going to hold off on guests. Probably till after Christmas, just until I'm more comfortable with this program. Didn't help that both Skype and OBS, Streamlabs, they both decided to do an update while we were off, because we didn't do a show 2 weeks ago due to illness, and it was like, oh crap, man, now I gotta learn where everything, because they moved everything around.
Yeah.
But I did have my chat show up on the side this time, so I didn't have to try to flip back and forth between YouTube and OBS, so that was kind of nice. So with that, I'm going to attempt to play our outro, and if you all could, that have been listening live, let me know what you thought of the sound. Was there any echo, any issues on the sound, stuff like that, and let me know if the outro comes through. So, here we go!
I know the truth and power of reason and of rational thinking, and I will use them to my advantage. I know the truth and power of educating myself and of expanding my intellectual boundaries, and I will educate myself. I know the truth and power of vanquishing ignorance, and I will do so whenever the opportunity presents itself. I know the truth and power of morality without supervision, and of true and accurate righteousness. I know the truth and power of obliterating tyranny, be it intellectual, emotional, or philosophical, and will work toward that goal whenever and however possible. I know the truth and power of human ingenuity. I know the truth and power of human compassion, and I will be mindful of the welfare of others. I know the truth and power of equality and fairness for all living things. I know the truth and power of the importance of our families, our friends, and our fellow men and women. I know the truth and power of human stewardship of our lands, our waters, and our skies, and I will try to act to preserve our environment. I know the truth and power of the sciences of mathematics, of physics, and of chemistry, and of the important role of these disciplines in understanding the workings of this cosmos. I know the truth and power of the rejection of all notions or beliefs that reside in the supernatural or the superstitious, and of those notions or beliefs that we are not supposed to be able to explain. And I know that these rejections are necessary for humankind's survival. I am a human being with a free mind, liberated from irrational influence and from unreasonable dogma.